Welcome to Spotlight. I'm Kevin Miller, your host, and it's my pleasure to have with us today Lisa Gray, who is not only a local resident born and bred here in the area, but also now an author.
How about that?
Yes. How do you feel about being an author?
Oh, it's an exciting adventure, something that I hadn't planned on, but I'm enjoying the ride.
So tell me how you become an author, and the topic obviously is a tough one to deal with, but you've had to do it as a mother. So tell us the story briefly.
Sure. I wrote the book after I found out that my daughter had been sexually abused by my ex-husband. It was something that was very traumatic, didn't know anything about it. It was really horrifying. But we were able to come through the process. My daughter's doing well, I'm doing well. And over again, I've run into so many people that said, Lisa, just believe you could help so many people if you wrote a book. And I've been open with that, and I've just finished the book, and I'm so excited. Had great reception. The people are very excited to hear about it. Even though it's a tough subject, it's something that we need to talk about.
So there's got to be a wave of emotions, Lisa, from the initial onset of finally finding out about it. And obviously the title of the book, They Don't Tell, tells us a lot about the process, right?
Absolutely.
She didn't tell you initially. So how did you find out and then go through the process of what you had to do then?
Well, that's a night that I will never forget. It was a Sunday after Thanksgiving. It was at the end of the day. I was washing dishes, and she came up to me and said, Mom, if I had something to tell you, would you be a mom or would you be a friend? And that began our journey.
Yeah, and then she told you what had happened.
It took about 4 hours to get it out of her because she still had decided not to tell.
Obviously, it's tough on her part too.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you've written about from her perspective too, why it was tough to tell you.
Actually, this book is more from my perspective. I did not want to write Nikki's story. I wanted to talk about something that's not talked about for family members who are struggling with this abuse, how important it is to do some self-care so that you're in a position to be able to help your child. I was like a deer with headlights. Once I found out about that, I went through my own stress, I went through my own trauma, and I had to do some things for myself so that I was in a good position in order to help my daughter as she went through the struggles as well.
Yeah. So when we come back from the break, I want to delve into a little bit about you've touched on it a little bit,
okay.
But and I'm sure one of your goals on this was to impact other people, because you don't tell this story just from a personal standpoint. You tell this to impact others that might go through or have the same thing. I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll talk more with Lisa Gray in just a moment as we continue on Spotlight. Welcome back to another edition of Spotlight, and our guest today is Lisa Gray, who has written a dynamic book called They Don't Tell, and I'll kind of hold it up for our audience a little bit here, Lisa, but we were talking on the break about the difficulty that one must have in writing about this.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
even getting probably it started writing the book.
Yes, it was very difficult. It was very difficult to go through the process. There were many times that I stopped, and sometimes I just had to stop and cry.
Yeah.
But it was still cathartic for me as I went through the process. And I did it a little bit at a time. It was over a 2-year period. But we were able to complete it, and we're really hoping to impact people in the community, outside of the community. We just find that there's so much abuse that's going on, but it's kept hush-hush. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I told my daughter, hold your head up high. You have nothing to be ashamed of. And I felt the same way, and I really think it's important for people to talk about what their experience has been and how they've come through it.
Often when people write books of this type, they say it's been therapeutic for them to write it. Did
Absolutely.
you find that as well?
I did find it therapeutic. There were some things that I thought I had processed through that I had not. And I'm not saying that I processed through everything. I'm in a great place right now. My daughter's in a great place right now. As I continue to talk to people about the book, and we've had book signings, and people have shared their stories with me, it's been amazing. I've had so many good reports where people were talking just like that they're able to process more, and there's more, and there's more. So the book is all about help. It's about healing. Nikki wrote a chapter in there to the mothers, because we walk around with that guilt and shame. Why didn't I know? How could this have happened and I not known? Well, you were dealing with highly deceitful people. So.
Yeah. So you talked about the difficulty of starting it out. Once you got going on it, did it kind of write itself from that point? Did you see how the vision of how it was going to lay out chapter by chapter then?
I did not. I just started writing, and I would write about the different things that we processed through, the different things we went through as far as the court proceeding, whether or not even to go to court, what it was like to tell the family members, the decisions to tell Nikki's brothers. I made some critical decisions when to tell and when not to tell. I didn't always have the support that you would think that you would have from family. And all those things played into what happened. So this is my story. It is from a mother's perspective, and that's why I named it that. It's not Nikki's story. She'll tell her story if and when she ever wants to. But she was very excited about this book, by the way.
That's great to hear.
She was very excited
What's
about
been
it.
the reaction from other people then once it was done and they took a look at it? What was the reaction?
It's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing. I've had people who have had the same thing happen to them, that they were able to release some more. I've had people that know family members or they know people in the community. It's amazing the number of people that we talk to on a daily basis that are dealing with issues that we had no idea.
That's got to make you feel good.
This has been a wonderful process, and there's a lot of hope, a lot of healing, and you can survive through this, and that's exactly what that book talks about. You can survive through this.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank
I'm going to
you.
hold it up again. Lisa Gray, who's written They Don't Tell, and it's been a pleasure having her today on Spotlight.